Okay, next up is the color picker. Again, we're in the finished application or project, where you can see at the left or bottom left corner, I also provided a color picker, which allows me to just pick a color, do some drawing. But again, it might be difficult to pick the same exact red color or the same exact orange color from here, which is not matching up. So I also provided a shortcut, Ctrl-Alt-Shift, and while holding this I can just hover over the already drawn lines in order to color pick from there, so I can quickly continue with the color that I already added. So back in the project where we are, for the project we're building, I'll just add a base that's a placeholder for everything we need for this color picking. So I'll just go inside where we can place all the necessary operators to do so. So inside I want to provide a ramp top in order to give the users some colors to pick from. So I'll set it to 100 wide and 25 high. And then we can just quickly do some colors, like maybe left can be white, all the way right can be red, and then provide some intermediate colors, some blue, some green, and maybe some, let's see, yellow maybe, or place the yellow next to the red. Anyway, it doesn't matter, you can switch it like whatever you want, like this. Everything is at its maximum value, looking good. Anyway, something like this. So now we want to sample or click one of those colors and capture this color that we've clicked. So for this we can normally convert to a chop, but here you see that everything inside of this top gets converted to its corresponding RGBA values, and we only need one of them. And now I realize that I've put this in a base, but actually if you right click this base you can change the type, as we want it to be a container. So as it's a container, we can again use a panel chop, and we can say we only need inside U and inside V, as well as L select. And these will allow us to normally just select, if I deselect this one, hover over, you can see UV sampling coordinates. So these are the ones. So if we hit Shift V, we have the container for, yeah, it's called a base, but it's actually, we change it to a container. So as it's a container, this allows us to use a panel inside and obtain its UV and select channels. So by connecting this to this top, we can say which of the UV coordinates we actually want to sample from this ramp. So now we are constantly sampling, but we only want to sample on left click. So therefore we will just add a hold, and this can go in the first one, and L select can go in the second one, but for this I'll just separate it in a separate select chop. No, not inside. Oh no, undo. Not this one, but L select, so I can connect it up, and off to on. So normally only when I click, yes, I'm sampling the corresponding color, which is not yet visible. So I'll already, by Alt N, I get just a null, which I can just call BG for background, right click, open parent parameters, go to look and say look inside for BG and show it to me. So this is now showing our ramp value. So if we click to blue, you will see the blue value is high. If we click on red, red value is high. If we click on white, all the channels will be high. So that's already looking good. But now we also need to show to the user what color we picked, which is this one. So once we picked it, we can reconvert back to the top domain. So let's go back to the job to top. Oh, is this correct? Let's see. Maybe let's just use a rectangle. Then it's easier to say also 100 by 25. Let's enlarge it so it fills up the whole space. Maybe just at 2. Okay, resize it, and now we can find its fill color. And we can just map those so that it will take the correct color. And now I can just start picking some color and it's visualized. So now we only need to combine those two rectangles into one single block of visual. So therefore we'll just use layout, select both, combine them, say not left to right, but top to bottom. And then we can just say in the comment page, use parent panel size. And then it should normally do some visualization of those two, top to bottom. Scale resolution, no. So this isn't looking like we want it to look. So probably, as we say, use parent panel size. The size will not be right yet. So indeed, this should take a width of 100 and a height of 50, as it's twice 25 high. So that's already looking better. So if we visualize this again, I expect it to show both of them, but that's not yet the case because we need to connect this one. And there you go, you have some color picking. But again, it would be nice to not have to click, but actually be able to swipe and see a gradual swiping through all those colors. So let's switch this hold to while on. And now I can just click until I have a nice color and then release. And then I've picked this color, which is now available in the hold. So let's also make this color available on the outside of this container. So just connect an out chop, and if you scroll out, you'll see that this becomes available on the output. So I can just already place it here. But let's go in again, because we need to do some cleaning up here so it looks a bit more tidy. Let's place this here, and output can go here. So now we're able to use this color picker to get a color, but what we also want is to pick a color from our already the panel that we drew on. So the already existing lines, we want to resample those in order to sample the colors we already used. So therefore I'll just add a keyboard in that this time, because this will allow us to, if we just decrease this to 2 normally, you can see that we can easily get information about Control, Alt, and Shift. So these 3 are the ones I want for now, as I want to use these as a shortcut in order to sample from the panel itself. So therefore, I will use a select. And what do I want to select? I want to select row 1. So by index, set it to 1. And then I want it by name, starting column from Alt all the way to Shift. So if I say Alt all the way to Shift, I will now have Control, Alt and Shift available. Next, I can convert it back to the shop domain. And I want a channel per column, probably. Yes, and the first column are values as well. So now I have them available as nice channels. Okay. And I only want to do this sampling when all three are active. So I can do like an AND operation or a logic AND. But it's easier to use a math for this, as a math is also not always cooking, and the logic does, so it's better, I think, to use a math for this. If you can prevent to use a logic, I think it's best to prevent it, but anyway. Math we can accomplish the same by combining the channels and multiplying those. So if I multiply, then it will only become 1 if all three are active. So this can be your trigger in order to sample from our panel, or the lines we already drew. But first we need our actual rendered panel. So we go one layer up and we go select this one over here. So it's called BG. So, okay, now we know that it's called BG. I can just select the BG one level up, BG, and there you have it. So now we can apply the same logic or the same technique as above by connecting a top 2, but we don't need everything. We only want the coordinates where the mouse pointer is. So for this I will not need the panel we are in, so not this parent panel, but we will need the actual panel, not this one, but the one we are now in, so container 1 panel. So let's go in and we say, let's see, maybe just add another panel. And let's say here that we want parent 2, so 2 levels up, and I only want inside U, inside V. Connect this again, so we only have, if we view this one, normally, yes, so now we are inside of this one, but if we are inside of this small one, you'll see that this panel is reacting, and that's exactly what we want. So that's looking good. Okay, again, we want to apply the same technique, so I'll just copy the hold, and instead of those, I'll just connect. Let's see, for the first one I can use the bottom one, and for the second one I don't want the else select but the combined Control Alt Shift. Okay, so now normally if I select this one you'll see black, and if I hover over the white while holding, so you see me hold Control Alt Shift, this becomes active, and while I'm holding those and I hover over the white line, you'll see those color values being sampled at that location. So I'm able to sample an already existing line, which is exactly what I want. And the only thing I need to do now is use an override, which is a nice operator, which is actually overriding, allowing you to override some values. So I'll just show you what this means. So if I'm sampling a color, these are changing, and as these are changing, it will override these already existing values. But if I now use the color picker, this will override again the other one. So whatever I used last, it will override the already existing values, and this allows me to just use both, and whatever I use will be written inside of this override. So let's replace it, the output with the override, and normally this operator or this little thing should be ready to use. So now we can go one level up again. Let's rename this one to color, as that's what it's representing. And now we can go make sure that each time our line is being copied or replicated, the new copy is copying also this color data, so each line can keep its own copy of the current color that was selected. So let's go inside, and where do we want to do this? Inside of this on create, because on create we actually want to populate another constant that's going to hold the color. So again, let's name it color, and here as well 3 channels for R, G, and B. And then if we zoom in, we can just say each time when you are created, let's go populate those RGB channels. So let's say operator color parameter value 0 should be 1 level up. This one was also named color, and let's pick the R channel, and let's copy this twice over so we can use the same thing for 1, for 2, for RG and RGB. So normally on create, the top level color should be placed inside of this color, and we can combine, or we can add some extra details to the position details or data. So the trim will now only contain position data from the UV channels, but yeah, they are used by mapping those to the X and the Y, but you also see that you have some channels for RGB, red, green, and blue. So by merging these color details with the position details, we can make sure that they are mapped on this top, or on this sub, sorry. So let's do this. Let's merge them together. So let's say you, 2 of you can go inside, maybe put position in front. Let's do it like this, okay. And now we should be able to say in the limit, use RGMB. So now let's try this out, if we did everything correctly. I'm going to remove all my lines. I'm going to open my panel. I'm going to pick a color. Let's go for blue. And yes, so the first line I'm creating, on create, it picked the colors from the level above, placed it inside of the color operator. The color gets merged together with the position data, gets mapped onto these RGB channels for the sub, and that's the color for this line. If we go up and we go change the color to red, for example, then this color red will be copied inside of the next line, and therefore you have this line having its own color. And let's finally test the panel sampling. So Ctrl-Alt-Shift, and now you normally see, yes, you see that it over here it's changing, but we would also like that the current representation of the current color is also updating. So therefore we still need to go inside here, and instead of letting this rectangle being determined by the color picker only, we will let it, or we will make it listen to the overridden values. So therefore I'll just use these for R, G, and B, and then the picked color should be representing the last one I've picked. So now I'm picking from the panel, so I'm picking the purple, I'm picking the red, but now I can also pick from the color picker. So therefore this also seems to be working quite nice. Orange, so I can pick red again, complete some explanation in red. If I decide to make some more purple or some other color, I can quickly use it, and you'll see the next artifact we need to correct. This is because all the lines are now being drawn on the same position on the z-axis, being 0 on the z-axis. So I can actually show you what is happening here. Now I should stay inside of this one. And if we go to the geometry, or maybe already this one, you see that they're z-fighting, it's called. It's when multiple geometries are actually laying on the same z-axis position, being 0 on the z-axis, then the GPU or the project doesn't know which one to draw first, which one is laying on top, which one is laying on bottom. So it's doubting, and therefore you also get this flickering between the different colors. So in order to fix this, we can just easily say inside of the master. So now we are inside the master. We can again create a little constant, and we can name it Z twice, and then we can make it look at its parent digits again. And if we say me.parent.digits and divided by a big number, then this means that each line, let's say line 1, will have digit 1, but it will be divided by 1,000, meaning it's 1,000th of a unit. So therefore it's slightly moved to the front on the z-axis. Line 2 will also will be placed even more slightly to the front. So therefore they're not coinciding or occupying the same space on the z-axis. And the z-fighting should be avoided. But of course we still need to hook this one up. And of course map this as well. So pick the Z. And therefore if we now start drawing some colors, it's already fixed because the other lines are cloning the master, and therefore they already followed all the changes we've made. So therefore in line 1, this one is 1,000, 1/1000, so just a small offset to the front. For line 2 it's the same, it's also even a bit more to the front. Therefore they're not occupying the same space anymore, and they're not flickering, which is a nice fix again.